What, so I'm streaming now? What the fuck? Oh, hey, I'm streaming now. That looks better to me. Man, it looks really bad. Is that really what it looks like? Man, it looks really bad. Is that... Alright, so I'm gonna start streaming. I've been like kind of indecisive about this because I really want to do content creation, but I just don't like uh I've been doing a little bit of content creation, and I started actually putting videos up on separate like on multiple platforms. And I was like, eventually it would be cool to start streaming. But honestly, I'm just like, fuck it. There's no reason to wait, especially when like I'm recording videos and then like putting them up like super. That's funny. Like super long ones like where is it? This one's an hour and 22 minutes long. It's like I could have streamed that if I wanted to. Uh, but anyway, um, it's long. It's like I could have streamed that if I wanted to. But anyway, um, oh dang, oh dang. That's pretty interesting. But anyway, yeah, I don't expect this to go anywhere like instantly. I don't even expect to get like reoccurring viewers like ever. Well, not ever, but I saw one person was watching. I got really hyped for a moment, but that one person is definitely me. Um, I don't even know how to change the bitrate. It's probably in settings, but I probably can't change that while in the middle of a stream. But yeah, I decided to do it on this channel. I was kind of like reluctant to. I wanted to make a different channel to do the streams on, but honestly, it's like if I'm just kind of like posting like clips to this channel and also like bulk videos like this one and this one and that one and that one. It's like, why the fuck not? I don't know. Yeah, I was pretty indecisive, but I think this is what we're going with. Does it look weird with it? Yeah, it does look weird as fuck.
We're eating a nectarine.
Wait, no, that's different. Does it look weird with it? Yeah, it does look weird as fuck. It's kind of crazy how little delay there is. But yeah, I don't really like that at all. That's different. Whatever, I'll figure that out in time. But I just don't want to show. I mean, I don't have like my email up or anything, but I just don't want to show like my whole window. To me, that just feels. Oh, also that's different. But yeah, I just don't want to show my whole window. Um, Something about that is just unappealing. Is that the same? Like, roughly. I guess I could just duplicate it. Anyway, I'm gonna close my window because that lighting is just god awful. Yeah, that definitely looks better. Yeah, this looks way better. My god. Dude, the stream's on. Looks way better. My god. Anytime I go to this one bit, it reminds me of that clip of that dude, like, um, starting, like viewing his own stream and then, like, making something, like, incredibly funny out of it. But, yeah, it's pretty wild to see, like, this just go on. Like, I can wave my hand and then I'll see it in, like, probably in 3, 2, 1. Yeah, hey, there it is. And then I'll see it, like, down there and between the same amount of time. It's just odd. I don't know why I'm rambling about this. Anyway, we gotta figure out something to do. I want to change the stream name too. Dude, I don't know what to name this, man. I'm kind of indecisive here. Whatever. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, the weird, like, simplicity of this just makes me want to click on it, but also it's because I like this image. But, anyway, we're not gonna... Whatever. Let's just do some fucking shit, just for fun. I just want to fucking do something, man. Yeah, something that makes me, like, reluctant to have my full screen up is because, I'm afraid, like, I'll show things that I shouldn't show. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't have, like, an intuition for that yet. But yeah, I wanna play a game or something, man. I wanna do something. We could play Escape from Tarkov with a friend, but I got really fucking tired of that game. I'm also not good at that game, so it would not be fun to watch me play that game. I've played a lot of Rust. I'm not bad at that game, but man, fuck it, whatever. We don't have anything else to do today. We're gonna do a solo run in Rust just for fun. This is what we're doing. It sucks because I want to start like asking questions from like from the audience, but it's like there's no audience. Does this look good? Do you guys like the stream? Um, yeah, I'm excited though. Honestly, as long as I have no doubt in my mind that I will keep making content because I have such a fat desire to make content that I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that I'm going to keep making content. And the thing is, it's like if I start live streaming and I keep posting content and also pushing like traffic towards the actual stream, then I'll actually start getting viewers and developing a stream, which is what I wanted to do. So, I mean, yeah, why the fuck not? Where's the search? Oh, that's the search bar. We want a just solo. Solo only. God damn it. No. Where was the one that just said solo only? I want that one. It looked like it had a fair amount of people. But yeah, I don't want to play more than just solo because that shit's fucking toxic. How is this solo only but there's TP and clans? That makes zero sense. This one doesn't look bad. Wait! One tap? Yeah, some of these it feels like it says solo only, but it's not. It's not just solo. Yeah, it's solo only, solo slash duo. Um, I kind of want one with like loot plus because I'm absolute scrub. Fuck it, man. We're gonna go. We're gonna go with this one. And it's 10 minutes old. But yeah, today I went to the DMV to take my driver's test, and I failed it. And every time I fucking say that, I feel like a fucking failure. It sucks. I feel so like bad and stupid for it. Um, my God, and I can't get this straight. It feels like every angle's bad. But yeah, I failed it. I didn't get. I got 5 points marked, which it was for probably like 3 traffic checks. Um, apparently I was like hogging a lane at one point during a lane change, and then I forgot to turn my blinker off. Um, my turning signal off at one point. So it was 5 points, and I passed. And I was turning into the DMV. I was like, fuck, it's over. I fucking did it. I cannot believe I did it. Um, and then the second to last turn I had to make, I turn into it. and my back right tire hits the fucking curb. And hitting the curb is an instant fail. Um, yeah, and it sucks because I can see on the grading sheet that she wrote like passed and great job, and she like scribbled it out and then had to write failure over one stupid fucking mistake. But yeah, it sucks. Now I have to wait 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks just to take the fucking driver's test again. Feels so silly. I feel so dumb. Is my sound not working? Because I haven't heard a single sound since getting on Rust. For some reason, my sound hasn't been like the greatest. It's been bugging a little bit. I'm gonna be pissed if the fucking sound doesn't work. But yeah, I seriously had a fucking meltdown after. I was so angry, and I thought my mom was, cause my mom was there with me. But yeah, I walked inside, and the examiner like explained to her like I just hit a curb, literally at the very fucking end of the test. And then she's like, "All right, do you want to reschedule?" And I'm like, "No, I just want to fucking leave." So then I walk out the door, and she thinks I walked into the bathroom. So then she's just there waiting in the DMV. And I'm outside waiting in the car thinking, why the hell is she taking so long to reschedule this? Because I didn't even want her to reschedule it there. I just wanted to do it at home. And then I was like, I guess she's rescheduling it in there. And then I walked in because it had been like 10 minutes and I was tired of just like being angry alone in the car. And then I walked into the DMV and she's just sitting there and she thought I was in the bathroom. She's just waiting for me. Which I thought that was kind of funny. But god fucking damn it, I cannot believe I fucked that up. Cannot believe that. But yeah, that shit happens. Somebody left me a voicemail.
It took place with some monies that was stolen. I don't know if this was from a connection, a contact, someone that did not do right, something that was supposed to come through. Press 1 to hear this blessed word. Press 1 and now to hear this blessed word. There's a reason why the enemy keeps on messing with this. There's a reason why the enemy keeps on trying to cause confusion in this. Press 1 to hear this blessed word. Press 1. If you wish to no longer receive these messages, please hit the option 3 now.
Dude, I fucking hit the option 3. I've hit 3. And then he just started fucking playing the goddamn messages again. Ugh. Yeah, my fucking sound doesn't work. And there's goddamn backpacks in this. Okay, that's not too much storage. That's kind of cool. I don't know why, my shit's been doing this. It has. But we sure as hell cannot fucking play Rust without, sound. It's not gonna fucking happen. Why can't I pick up, oh, it's because we're in a safe zone? The fuck? What is this, dude? Oh, what? That's dumb as fuck. So these are the guns there's a, like, lock on the weapons. I don't know what the hell's going on there. Every time I click on this, I can't tell if it's me watching the stream or it's somebody else. I'm quite positive it's me. 2 views. Yeah, we don't want to fucking play this server anyway. I don't know why the sound isn't working. It's weird because the sound worked on. The sound wasn't working when I was trying to play Muck, but the sound works on. I don't know why it's doing this. Oh fuck! Am I gonna have to fucking start the stream over? Because the fucking no, there has to be a different way to do that. Video capture device, bro. What? Okay, that's one way to do it. Cool, that was easy to figure out. Yeah, it must be like my default. Um, why does this keep fucking popping up? Here we are. Yeah, these are the fucking. What even is this? See, so it works here, like it works on this game. But then when I try other things, it doesn't work. This game's really fun. I've always. What the fuck is this? This is new. I love how they like added this thing, and it's literally just like they just set it here instead of like reorganizing this whole thing, which I find kind of funny. But yeah, this game has a lot of really cool guns and just absolutely ridiculous physics. Man, it increases it by a lot. Wow. It's a fat ass clip. I don't have enough ammo. Oh, God! Anyway, that was a sidetrack. Yeah, the sound's not here again. Right? Why is the sensitivity so damn low? Uh-oh. I wonder if we could probably do that, actually. Oh, my Spotify hasn't been fucking working. We're gonna fucking uninstall Spotify and reinstall it. Fuck. No. Oh. Sorry? Bro, what? Can you not stream while, There's no way that's a fucking thing. Is it just Joe's podcast that doesn't work? Dude, this is like this is the worst album cover fucking ever. Jesus. I think DJ started running out of fucking ideas, so he's just like, the more features the better. And then he just kept getting more and more features. How is he 82nd in the world? Does not make sense to me. Makes zero sense to me. So, I'm guessing it just doesn't even let me fucking play Joe's stuff. Oh, hey, here we go. So odd. Is this not working? When did the stream sound stop working? I guess the stream sound stopped working. I don't have enough ammo. Alright, well, it's fixed.
So your new Oculus is awesome. It's very impressive.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Coming out in October. We're going to be talking about it at our Connect conference. That's coming up. Yeah, pretty excited about it.
It's so interesting. The when you put it on, so I'll just describe it to people. When I put it on, there was an avatar in front of me, and it was an alien woman. And the alien woman, when I moved my mouth, she moved her mouth. When I moved my eyes left and right, it's tracking my eyes. When I make like an angry face, like it makes an angry face. When you go like open your mouth, it's incredible. It like you can see the evolution and the progress of this stuff, where it's getting to the point where it's mimicking human patterns in a kind of a creepy way. But it's very cool.
Yeah, so, for me, the stuff is all about, like, helping people connect, right? I mean, the way that I got into this is, I don't know, I just started thinking about, like, what would be the ultimate expression of basically people using technology to feel present with each other, right? And it's not phones, it's not computers. Like, how do you get this sensation of actually being present, like you're right there with another person? And that's, to me, what virtual and eventually augmented reality are all about. And there's just this whole technology roadmap that we basically just need to go run down over the next decade to unlock that. So for the next device that's coming out in October, there are a few big features. I mean, the one that you're talking about, basically social presence. I mean, the ability to now have kind of eye contact in virtual reality, have your face be tracked, so that way your avatar, it's not just like this still
too
thing.
much for the fucking computer.
But if you smile, or if you frown, or if you pout, or whatever your expression is, have that actually just in real time translate to your avatar. I mean, that's obviously like our facial expressions are just a huge. That's like a. There's more nonverbal communication when people are with each other than verbal communication.
You had a really good point too about face tracking and like if you're doing like a FaceTime call, that you don't look at each other in the eye because you're looking at the camera to look in the eye, and then you don't see the person. So if you look at the camera, you're looking up, and if you look at the look down at the actual screen, you're not making eye contact with the person. But this is able to recreate actual eye contact. With the avatar.
Yeah, no, this will be the first time really to do that. I mean, when we're using technology today, I mean, it's great to be able to make phone calls and video calls and all that. I mean, if you can't be with someone today, it's nice to be able to see their face. But when you're on a video call, you don't actually feel like you're there with the person, right? I mean, you get some signal, some information, you can see their face, but the whole time you're kind of trying to convince your brain that you're actually there with them. But your brain knows, right? It's like at kind of like a deep level.
Yeah.
That's you're not actually there with them. You're just getting some information about what they look like. And to me, what virtual reality unlocks is it basically really convinces your brain that you're there. I mean, when you're in there, you have to basically try to convince your brain that this isn't real, right? And that you're not present. So and there are all these just subtle signals. And things that either deepen the illusion or break it. That each time we do a new version, we just try to break down a few more of the barriers. So one of the big ones early on, well, the first one obviously was just like having a headset and be able to look around. And for that, one of the key things that your eye basically refreshes. I don't know, call it every 5 milliseconds or something. So if you turn your head and the image isn't kind of refreshed to where you're looking within 5 milliseconds, then there's this huge mismatch between your visual system and your vestibular system and your kind of balance in your ear. And people used to kind of feel uncomfortable from that, right? Because it's like a physical discomfort because like what you were looking at didn't match kind of as you were rotating your head. So that was kind of the first thing. Then we got hands. And there was this whole thing that was super interesting there where at first we wanted to, display your whole arm, which makes sense, right? Because, I mean, it's you'd think, okay, it's a little weird to just see your hand. But it turns out that your brain is perfectly willing to just accept seeing your hand without your arm because your hand is the thing that it's trying to manipulate. And as a matter of fact, when if we kind of interpolated and got your arm position wrong, right? So we'd get into these cases where your hands were here, and we'd sort of guess that your arm was like that or something. And if your arm was actually like that, but we displayed it so that it was in like that, you're like, my elbow's broken. Right? It felt like really wrong. So it's actually much better to show a limited number of signals but get them right, and then you could just add on over time. So for previous versions before this, we didn't. The kind of eye contact was all just. AI simulated, but we didn't actually know when you were making eye contact because we weren't tracking the eyes. And now, for this version, and hopefully, a lot of the different ones that we build going forward, you'll be able to, have realistic facial expressions and more translated directly to your avatar. But there's this whole roadmap of basically how do you deliver this like real sense of presence, like you're there with another person, no matter where you actually are.
It was very impressive because even when I moved my jaw side to side, it did that. It made the O face like whoo. It's really interesting. And you were saying also that the way this is tracking is you're doing this without putting something on your body, without putting trackers on your body. But do you ultimately think that that's like, are we going to go Ready Player One, where you have like a haptic feedback suit and you have to zip this thing up to get into a game, and in that way you're going to be fully immersive? Or do you think that it can get to the point where it can mimic the movements of your body accurately without you having to wear something?
So I think that there will be opportunities to wear things to augment the experience further, right? So we already have these experiments with haptic gloves where you can, like, if you touch a digital object, right? If you drop a ball from one hand to the other, you can feel the ball in your hand physically, and that's pretty cool. But I want to design this in a way where you don't need that, right? So today there's two primary modes of doing the tracking. I mean, there's this kind of notion of inside-out tracking. You're wearing the headset, and it tracks your motion, it tracks your hands. Eventually it'll track your legs with an AI model. And you can do that all with your headset, and the big advantage of that is you don't need to have a whole lot of different devices, right? Eventually you'll be able to do it without even having controllers. You'll just have the headset will get smaller, it'll be more portable, you'll be able to bring it around. You don't want to have a setup that has like 10 pieces, right? I mean, maybe there are going to be times when you want to kind of have that sort of super deep experience, or maybe you have it at your home. But I think ultimately people are going to just want to have versions of this that they can bring around, and whether it's on an airplane, or you're doing work at the office, or you're going to a coffee shop or whatever. And for that, you really just want to make it work from the device.
So just from a pair of glasses or something along those. This episode is brought to you by Onnit, and this is a supplement that I use every time I need my memory to be sharp. Those lines.
Yeah, I mean, right now there's kind of the concepts of virtual reality and augmented reality are sort of on two different development paths, but they're obviously fundamentally interrelated, right? So virtual reality, it's kind of possible to build today, right? Quest 2, it's pretty popular, doing well. Hopefully the new one that comes out, I think it's a pretty big step above it. But you can build that today. There's a lot of new technology that we've researched that goes into that, but it also is building on top of decades of advances in displays that came from TVs and then laptops and phones, and some of the display technology gets to piggyback on those decades of innovation and all these different companies that have done that work before. AR is a pretty different beast because what you really want to get to is not a headset. You want to get to something that's like a normal-looking pair of glasses that is, I mean, it won't be like a wireframe because you'll need to fit some electronics in it, where you'll basically need to have a computer in there and speakers and a microphone and batteries and a laser projector, and then the display, which we and a lot of other folks think is going to be this technology called waveguides, which is completely different from screens, because it's a screen. It's like you're looking at a thing, and basically you're looking at like all the pixels that are on the screen. The thing that's different about a waveguide is it'll actually be see-through, so you'll be able to see the world through it, and then it'll display holograms and be able to place them at different depths in the world.
So is a waveguide a type of technology? Like what is a waveguide?
Yeah, it's basically they can be made of different substances, plastic, glass, in different substrates, and they basically get etched or printed in different ways. And there's this big debate right now where a lot of the research is going into what is the right way to basically create these waveguides that have the right properties, because you want for augmented reality to get something that's wide enough field of view. So you can imagine in 5 years we're having this conversation. I'm not here. You're wearing AR glasses. Hologram Mark is here, and like it's not only just is it kind of working as a hologram, but there's all these different dimensions beyond just being like a better video chat. If we wanted to play poker, it's like I could like deal a deck of cards and we could play. Hologram me could deal hologram cards, and you could have your glasses, and physical you there could pick up the hologram cards, and you can have a poker night where like some of your friends are there physically and some of them are there as holograms. And it's actually kind of wild. One of the thought experiments that I like to do is thinking about how few of the things that we physically have in the world actually need to be physical. obviously things like chairs need to be physical, right? You're not going to be sitting on a hologram. Food needs to be physical. But most entertainment type stuff, I mean, not just cards, but games, most media, TVs in the future probably won't need to actually be physical things. It'll just be like an app, we'll just have an app there on your wall, and it's like snap your fingers, get the hologram there for the TV, and we can have our glasses and watch whatever you want there. And I don't know, they're sort of limited to being rectangular now because a bunch of limits in terms of the physics of how they get produced. But in the future, you'll just have like some high school students or college students developing apps, and it'll just be wild. Like crazy stuff will just kind of get created. But so you'll eventually be able to kind of have that all come through these AR glasses.
So are there these AR glasses, are they in production now? Are they in development now? Like when you talk about this kind of technology where you can see things that aren't there and look at maps and watch videos and have it all on a small computer that's in the frame of the glasses. Do they exist already?
No. I think we'll start to get stuff that kind of looks like the full version of this over the next, I'd say, 3 to 5 years. But I think it'll also start off pretty expensive once it's available, and then it'll take a while to work down to something that's like hundreds of dollars. But there are versions of this that you can start to see if you relax some of the constraints, right? So the kind of ultimate AR experience is that, like, okay, you just have normal looking glasses that can kind of have all of these have holograms and make it so you can interact with people wherever you want. But if you relax the form factor constraint, right? So you have a headset instead of normal looking glasses. That's the other thing that's coming in the new device that we're shipping in October is mixed reality in VR, right? So we got to play around with this a little bit in the sword fighting experience that we did, but it's basically the thing about mixed reality is you see the physical world around you. In the context of VR, it's not happening through a waveguide. It's basically happening through, you have cameras on the device that capture the world and then translate that in real time into stereo images, so different images in both eyes, so that way you can, because otherwise it's weird. I mean, we kind of see stuff in 3D because our two eyes see slightly different things. So you're kind of the computers are putting that together on the fly, and then you can overlay digital objects on top of that. So when we were sword fighting, it's like the version of me and my sword. It's like that was a digital thing, but otherwise it was in your lobby, right? And you could see your lobby.
Yeah.
So you could start to see those kind of AR experiences starting to get built, but in a form factor around mixed reality VR first. So that's one direction that I think that the industry is exploring. The other is basically looking at, okay, so we got to constrain this form factor because we want to have something that looks like normal glasses. What's the most technology that we can fit into a pair of normal-looking glasses today? Right, so you kind of go from both sides, right? It's like, what's the experience that we want to have, even if we can't get the form factor right? And what's the best we can do with the form factor? And then each year, those two basically converge. But on the smart glasses side, and we work with Ray-Ban to basically build these smart glasses, and they're the best-selling smart glasses that have ever been built, and they're we're continuing to work on new versions of it, but they're basically you can get a pair of Ray-Ban Wayfarers now that have a microphone and that they have a speaker and they can take photos and take videos and you can post them to Instagram. Yeah,
They do it on voice command?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, so you can say take a photo of this?
Yep. Take a photo, take a video.
And what kind of image quality are you getting off of these things?
It's pretty good. It's I want to make sure I don't get the spec wrong, and I just have all these different numbers in my head because I want to make sure I don't confuse it with the new version.
Is it like similar to like a selfie camera, like limited in comparison to the back camera?
Yeah, no, it's not quite as good as the back cameras today, but it's but yeah, no, it's like I mean you look at the quality and it's good, and it fits in like the corner of glasses.
Does that bring about privacy concerns if people could just like start filming things?
Yeah, so I mean we designed it so it has a light on it, so whenever I mean that I think is actually a really important part of this.
Well,
and
could you put a piece of tape over the light?
I mean I guess in theory, but
if you were a creep.
But it's yeah there
it is.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that little thing in the corner, is that a highlight or a light?
No, that's the light.
That's the light.
And it
Okay.
blinks, and it's a pretty active indicator. And I think if you
Wow.
put a piece of tape over it, it would probably interfere with the camera. So
And so those Wayfarers are essentially the same size as normal Wayfarers? Do they have thicker arms?
I think it's ever so slightly thicker, but it's within the same ballpark of weight. So we worked with a company that, Ray-Bans. These are like some of the most,
Yeah.
popular and successful glasses, and part of the reason why I wanted to work with them is because they know a lot about glasses design, and right, that's not my thing, right? So, so I figure, okay, they'll really bring to the table some constraints around like how big can this actually be before it starts getting too heavy on your face and uncomfortable to wear for long periods of time. And I've just learned a ton working with those guys. And they're super sharp. They're this great Italian company, and the collaboration has been awesome so far. So I'm looking forward to building more stuff with them. But yeah, so you basically have these two paths to the technology at once. You're kind of trying to explore all the capabilities, but in a device that's bigger than the form factor that you want, while simultaneously, every year or two, cranking and kind of pumping more technology into what can you fit into the kind of form factor that you want, and make it a really great design. And then just eventually these things converge. And then eventually they'll converge, and you'll get the functionality, and you'll get the kind of form factor, but it'll still be kind of expensive for a little while. And then you fast forward a few years from there, and then I think it'll really be a mainstream thing. But even VR today is doing quite well. It's I don't think we released like exact numbers on the sales, but yeah, it's within the ballpark of Xbox or PlayStation or those kind of platforms. And
Really?
yeah, so we started off. This was sort of my theory on this. Is like, all right, gaming is use case number one for VR, but then pretty quickly, if you look at any platform, right? So computers, phones, before
Nice.
games are a huge part of those platforms, but if you look at the main things that people do, it's really about communication. Because this is what people do, right? It's like we communicate, and that's kind of how we get meaning in our life, is interacting with other people. So it's like, all right, that's going to happen with VR, and sure enough, if you look at the top apps in VR now, the top few are basically social, metaverse, hang out with your friends apps that are not centered around any specific game. So that kind of hypothesis around, okay, VR is starting to add different use cases. It's going from games first. Games are still growing and going to be huge, to just kind of social, hang out with friends, be present. And we're getting all these other use cases that are kind of crazy and are happening sooner than I thought. So, another big one is fitness, right? Just because, in a way, these are like the first physical computing platforms.
Yeah.
It's like you don't like move around while you're on your computer. I guess you could a little bit on your phone, but it's sort of awkward because you're looking at the small screen. But like VR and eventually AR are really designed to be able to move around and do things and like interact with the world, and that's really important to me. It's like I just like I hate sitting in front of a desk, right? It's like I just feel like if I'm not like active, I'm like wasting my day. So I don't know. There have been these awesome experiences. Basically, a couple of companies. You can kind of think about it like Peloton for VR, where it's like Peloton. They sell you the bike or the treadmill, and then you buy the subscription and you get the classes. There's a couple of companies that basically do. They do cardio, they do dancing, they do boxing. But instead of having to buy a bike, you just have your Quest headset, and once you have that, you buy a subscription to these companies. And you can just take lessons and do different things and fitness, and it's I thought that was pretty wild. I thought that like in the long term something like that would start to happen, but it happened way sooner than I thought, which was really cool to see.
Well, if you do one of the boxing games, you realize right away, like, this is a really good workout. Like, the virtual boxer, when they come towards you and they're in that ring and they start throwing punches at you and you move in your head, you really wind up getting like a really high heart rate. You put out a lot of energy. It's really good cardio. I found like my feet would hurt because I was pivoting and moving so much, because I was like constantly like switching stances and trying to get away from punches. And as you get further on in some of the games, like the opponents become more difficult.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. It's fun. And you get out of there and you're really exhausted. It's a really good workout.
Yeah, so and that's just the kind of nature of the whole platform, and that's one of the things that I love about it. But those aren't even trying to be fitness apps, right? I mean,
They're
ones
just fun.
yeah, it's just that they just happen to be physical.
Are they
Right.
capable of having two people? Like we had a fencing match
Uh-huh.
today. You and I did.
Yeah.
Which is really fun. Are they capable of doing that with boxing now? Where two people have a because the thing about the fencing match that we had that I thought was really interesting is like you were facing one direction, like 30 feet away, and I was facing another direction. Like we weren't even facing each other. It didn't even matter.
Yeah.
So you could be in Bangladesh and I could be in Rome,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we could be playing a game together.
Yeah, so I mean, the fencing demo, our internal team built because we haven't released the new device yet. So in order to kind of make stuff work for it, we kind of build that ourselves. But the boxing ones are made all by other game developers and different developers. So
And they could do that? Where
yeah, there's nothing stopping them from having a multiplayer mode. I'm not sure if any of them do yet. I all the ones that I've played. I mean, I do Thrill the Fight, and I really like Creed, but I do those as single player. I don't know if they have multiplayer modes, but there's nothing holding them back from doing that. So I'd imagine that they will add that over time.
It seems like a smart move. I mean, we were talking about martial arts, like in terms like Muay Thai and other. I think Jiu-Jitsu would be a real problem, but because you'd have to physically have something to resist against. But if you could figure out how to do a Muay Thai mode, where the only problem would be things change when you make contact with stuff.
Yeah.
Things change in terms of like positioning and movement and what you're able to get away with and not get away with. Whereas with boxing's pretty good for that. Like it's probably like the best combat sport for VR because you don't even have to hit anything for it to feel like you kind of are.
Yeah.
And when you get hit with a jab, your screen lights up like you feel like you got hit.
Yeah, I mean, for kicking, with punching, it's a little easier to throw a punch and then just pull it back. With kicking, if you're not hitting a pad or something, you want to like continue rotating, or else it's tough to really put your weight into it.
It's do you envision a world where one day the physical experience of the game is going to be inconsequential because everything's going to be taking place in your mind? Like it'll be so good, whether it's with haptic feedback or some other kind of input, where you'll be able to actually experience very Matrix-like something that's not there. I mean, is that ultimately where all this is going?
I don't know. I mean, I just think that so much of our experience is our body and not just our mind. I mean, there's this strain of kind of philosophical thought that's like, okay, what is a human? It's like it's really just your brain, right? And I don't subscribe to that at all, because I mean I don't know what how you feel that stuff, but like I just feel like my whole energy level and mood and kind of how I kind of interact with the world is all just based on it's like it's so physical, right? It's not just so I mean I guess maybe over time it would be possible to just simulate that through your brain, but I don't believe that we're just brains in tanks, or just brains in a body. I kind of think our kind of physical being and the actions that we take there are as much, or I don't know, that's like just as much of kind of the experience of being human.
I would agree to that, but I would also say that a lot of people just like to sit down and watch movies, and that's a very alien experience to the human body, and it's something we've become very accustomed to. So what I'm thinking is if technology advances and it keeps going further in the direction that it's headed now, more immersive, more convincing, that uncanny valley gets bridged and all of a sudden you have a real life experience. Now, whether this is through some sort of Neuralink type deal or some new technology that tricks the mind into actual experiences. I mean, ultimately, isn't that where this is all going to go? Where you're going to be able to have experiences without having them? And that's not to negate the beauty of real experiences or not to say we won't have real experiences anymore. But if you wanted to have a real experience, and we talked about like economic restrictions that would keep you from being able to fly to another part of the world, well, you could go there with your Oculus. You could have a very realistic 3D representation of those places. Like you took me to Rome today. I got to see Rome. It's very cool. But do you think that ultimately that is going to get to a time where the technology is so advanced that it's indiscernible? That you could have a podcast experience with me. You and I could have this same conversation right now, but neither one of us be in this room.
Yeah, I think the nature of technology is that I think it's interesting to sort of hypothesize what the kind of extreme end state is going to be when something becomes
What?
kind of all-consuming. But I think the normal way this stuff plays out is that some things are more easily mimicable or replaceable than others. So we were talking before about, okay, boxing, yeah, you can do that pretty well. Maybe one day we'll get Muay Thai and kicking in. Jiu-Jitsu, that's going to be pretty hard, right? Because you need like all kinds of resistance. So, I mean, I think the way that this progresses is like it'll keep on being able to do more things really well, and I would guess that there will be other technologies or other things will advance in the world that will prevent any one thing from ever subsuming everything else. So I don't know. I mean, I also, I mean, maybe just because I'm in the position of like working on building this stuff every day, so maybe it's like I'm just trying to make it useful for a lot of things, right? So to jump to like it's so useful that it's better than everything is sort of I'm just not. I mean, that's so far ahead of where we actually are because I'm like in the trenches every day trying to get this to work.
It's not
Pretty too close to it.
Yeah.
But from a bird's eye view, like if you looked at where this is going, it's going to become more immersive, right? It's going to get better. It's going to be more convincing. And this is the real argument for simulation theory, right? The argument for simulation theory is if there's so many civilizations out there in the universe and they're so advanced, ultimately one has to create a simulation. It seems like that's going to happen. If the human race could survive another 100,000 years, the odds we wouldn't create a really realistic simulation, it's probably pretty low.
Yeah, I think the question is just how realistic and how good.
Yeah.
So I think that there's, to me, like the holy grail is building something that can create a sense of human presence. Right, it's like, I mean, I've spent the last almost 20 years of my life building social software, making it so that whatever limited computation you have, you can kind of share something about your experience. And, it started off with primarily text, right, when I was in college. Then we all got these smartphones, they had cameras, so then it became a lot of photos. Now the mobile networks are good enough that it's starting to be a lot more video. And to me, this kind of like immersive experience is clearly going to be the next step. But there's this question about, okay, so being able to feel like you're present with someone will unlock so many different types of value for a lot of people. And there's like social and entertainment, there's professional. I mean, one of, I follow this economist who basically studies that economic opportunity and upward mobility is sort of limited or varies based on like what zip code you grow up in, right? Because there's different opportunities in different places. But, imagine if you didn't have to move to some city that didn't have your values in order to be able to get all the economic opportunities. That would be awesome. So in the future where you can just use AR, VR, and teleport in the morning to the office and show up as a hologram, I think that's going to be pretty sweet, right? It'll unlock a lot of economic opportunity for a lot of people. Is it ever going to be 100% as good as being there in person? Probably not. But like, I mean, I don't know, when we were talking about doing this conversation, we talked on the phone, right? It's like I didn't fly down to Austin to talk about whether to have this conversation. Sometimes it's like whatever amount of simulation you have is, you can create a lot of value even if it's not 100% as good as the actual physical thing. So I just view our job as, we'll basically approach that like an asymptote. I don't know if you'll never be able to do all of the things that you can do kind of in person with a person, but you'll just be able to do more and more. If today it's gaming or hanging out, and over the next few years it'll be working, right? So hopefully you'll just be able to teleport in and basically just show up as a hologram and work remotely and live wherever you want, be with your family, wherever they live, but just be able to show up in whatever place.
Hey,
I think
up?
that's gonna be pretty awesome, and I think we'll be able to do that pretty well.
It's going to be a real issue for commercial real estate. There's not going to be a lot of offices. If that actually becomes like as good as having a cell phone in your pocket and being able to make a phone call,
yeah,
you could just sort of teleport to work.
Yeah.
It's going to be a problem. No one's going to want to work.
Well, that's a different question.
I mean, whether or not they're going to physically want to be there, rather. Maybe they'll want to work, but they're not going to want to go to the office.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Although I think being being present with people, feeling a sense of presence is pretty important,
Yeah.
regardless of where you do it. I mean, I've found, over the last couple of years, the way that that work has been done has changed a huge amount. And, it's, there are all these things that are sort of complex about the office, but like, I mean, I see people in person almost every day. Sometimes I probably do more meetings in my house now than I would have before. But yeah, I don't know. I do think that there's seeing people in person, having that sense of presence makes a big difference.
I think so too, but there's definitely a big pushback now about people going to the office rather than working from home. Like, people would rather just do their work from home, and they're like, with the internet connections as they are today,
Oh, yeah.
and the ability to video conference, like, why do I have to be physically in the building in order to get my work done?
Yeah, no, and I agree with that too. Our company is actually pretty forward-leaning on remote work. I mean, just especially some types of work, especially software engineering, you can do pretty well from a lot of different places. And if you're an engineer, sometimes it's actually better to not be in the office because then people aren't bugging you. You kind of want like a block of like 5 hours where you can just work on a problem. And if I don't know, it's like I have this thing where I'll be like in zone kind of flow concentration working on something, and my wife will like ask me some like basic question, and I'll just be like, oh man, it's like I just like lost my flow, and it's like and like from her perspective, it's like, oh, not a big deal. That was a quick question. Just go back to what you're doing. It's like, no, that's not how it works. but it's but so I do think to some degree having people be able to work remotely is actually pretty useful for a lot of things. But I think we'll need to find this mix. I think we'll need to find the mix.
I physically run away from my wife when I have a joke idea. If she's talking and I have an idea, I'll just run away. I just go, I got an idea. I just have to, like, she gets it, so it's okay. But yeah, if I'm in the middle of writing and she comes in and interrupts, it's over.
Yeah.
Just gets shattered. Yeah. So in some ways, well, you would have to have like a real quiet and secure place. But I think for a lot of people, the wasted time commuting and all that, if you could eliminate that through AR or VR, some sort of a hologram system, just the stress of life would be so much better.
Yeah, I mean, that's been, for me, over the last couple of years with COVID and just kind of rethinking the way that stuff has worked. I think reducing the commute has been one of the big efficiencies. But also being able to live in different places has been nice. I mean, I spent a lot of time down in Kauai earlier on, and I got like really into
Man, this gun fucking sucks ass.
Wake up in the morning and go do
Jesus
that. Jesus
Christ.
Just be really refreshed and go do my full day of meetings, which is obviously not something I could do in Palo Alto.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm pretty positive on all this. I think if you can give people the ability to get their kind of fluid state, like flow state work remotely, but then also just be able to kind of in a second teleport to a place and show up as a hologram and be present, I think that's pretty valuable. Now, that doesn't replace everything, right? I mean, one of the things that I found is for larger meetings, one of the most useful things is not actually the meeting itself, it's just getting a chance to catch up with people before and after the meeting, right? When you're in the hallway or something.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a downside to being so efficient about being able to teleport in and out too, because you can kind of miss some of those casual downtime moments. But overall, yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna create this kind of crazy amount of efficiency there.
Yeah, I think people are still gonna crave real world experiences no matter what. Obviously, I do stand up comedy, so obviously that experience, you must be there.
Yeah.
Like, that's part of the fun, is being in the room with people. But I can envision technology improving to the point where you could create a virtual comedy club, and you would see all the different people that have the headsets on in the room, and you would probably get pretty close. Like, there was a lot of people that did Zoom stand-up during the pandemic, and it was awful because there was no audience. They were just basically doing their act with no crowd. Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah, you need the feedback.
It's terrible.
It's super awkward just doing public
terrible.
speaking and not having any feedback.
Well, if someone's just doing public feedback, there's like some really great podcasts where people just, like Bill Burr, just talks to himself. It's just him ranting about life and stuff, and it's great. He doesn't necessarily need someone to bounce off of. But comedy is a different thing. Like comedy by itself with no audience is not
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. So there is already at least one experience like this that I'm aware of. So we have this
Really?
Horizon social platform, and people can build worlds in it. It's like it's pretty simple today, but it's designed to be this really easy world building platform, and people can go in and build stuff. And people built this thing called the Soapstone Comedy Club, and this is actually one of the stories that I've heard of people using VR that I think is really touching. So
Nice.
there's this woman who basically lost her son and was really sad and was grieving for a while, and comedy was just a really important outlet for her, but she had a lot of social anxiety around going and physically being in front of people and performing and doing it at a club. So she started doing it at the Soapstone Comedy Club, and had a little bit more anonymity because it was in virtual reality, but she could feel a real sense of presence of other people there. And I mean, talking to her about it, it's like it's been a real
Guns beyond
important
ass.
experience for her to kind of be this creative outlet and help her get over this grieving that she's had. And it's not something maybe that she would have been comfortable having the kind of full intensity experience of a physical comedy club, but you kind of got a bunch of the way there by feeling like you were present with people there.
My friend Brian Redband, he does this thing called Virtual Redband, where, what does he do? He does, like, they go to diners and stuff like that. They set it up.
VR chat.
Yeah. So he does it in Oculus, and he, has a bunch of his friends log on at the same time, and they go into a room together and hang out. And it's really interesting, because I think that to be able to have an online community where you go to a place and you all meet up and you're all like talking and hearing each other's voices, and seeing the avatar move, and like that alien avatar that you showed me today, it's very real looking. I mean, it does. I clearly see that it's this animated thing, but I would liken it to like an Avatar, like from the movie Avatar, like the Na'vi. Like there's something cool about it where it's like, it's definitely a step above a lot of these things that I've seen in the past. It's moving into this much more realistic sort of place where I could imagine a lot of people just deciding, like, today I'm going to be a penguin. I'm going to go to this diner and hang out with these guys as a penguin. And it's exciting. It's kind of fun.
Part of what's a little trippy about it is that in some ways, some of these experiences, I think, feel more realistic than, for example, having a Zoom call, right, where you can actually see the person's face. Because, I mean, the way that our memory works, it's like, it's very spatial, right? So, when I leave here today, I'll remember that you were across from me, and there's a symmetry, right? It's like, you're across from me, so that means I'm across from you. We have a shared memory of kind of the space of the place. And, if I guess it doesn't quite work as the headphones, but normally, if I, if you talk, it's coming from that direction. And spatial audio and kind of directional, building a spatial model of things is how we make memories. So you take something like Zoom, and it just completely blows that up, because now, it's every meeting that you have looks the same, right? They're like, and also there's no symmetry, right? So if you're in the top left of my box square, that doesn't mean that I'm in the same place for you. So we don't have any kind of shared spatial sense of that. And I don't know if you've had this experience, but I just kind of feel like if I do a day of Zoom calls, they all sort of blend together, and I have a hard time remembering what meeting someone said something in.
Right.
Whereas then, it's like, if you go into VR, it's like, okay, you have an avatar. It's obviously not super realistic yet. It'll get better and better over time as the computation gets better. Although, as an aside, I'm not actually convinced that even when we have photorealistic avatars, that people are going to prefer that to the expressive ones. But that's kind of a whole separate tangent that we can go down. I think you'll clearly want the ability to do both, have a photorealistic one and an expressive one. But yeah, I mean, if you're sitting around and someone's a penguin, or your friends are clearly cartoony, but you're sitting around a table and you have a shared sense of space, and your friend is to your right, which means that you're to their left, and when they speak, you hear it coming from that direction. You actually remember the spatial sense of that in the same way that you would a physical thing, which it's just kind of getting all those details right over time. I just think that this to me, this is like some of the most exciting work that I've gotten to do in a while, because I just feel like building social experiences on phones is so constrained, right? In some ways, it's awesome because there's like billions of people that have phones, so we can build services that get used by billions of people around the world, and that's obviously rewarding in its own way too. But like having the ability to define what these next platforms are going to be and have them break out of these boxes that have been really weirdly defined, right? In terms of like these things, phones, computers, they were not designed for basically communication and interaction. They were designed for kind of work and certain computational workloads. And so a lot of what I'm trying to do is like, okay, well, what does it look like to design the next computing platform in a way that's like really people-centric? So if you were doing it in the way that like our brains worked and how we actually process the world and how we think about stuff and what matters to us, I don't think you'd build a platform that was designed around apps. You'd build it where the fundamental unit of how you interact is around kind of people and how you express yourself. And you'd want to be able to like have an avatar and an expression of your identity and be able to just jump between a bunch of different experiences rather than have everything be so siloed. So I don't know. I think that this is it's just like it's pretty wild to try to build this all from the ground up because it's just this incredible breadth and amount of technology. And I mean, I often get criticized because we're investing just this huge amount in this. We're going to spend this year alone more than $10 billion on all of these different research streams, but the breadth of this is just like extremely wide, right? It's not like $10 billion is going towards any one specific thing. It's like there's all the avatar work and all of how you express yourself and how you build the worlds. And then there's all the VR stuff. And within VR, we're working on this year's device and next year's device and the one after that. And then in AR, we talked about, it's like we have the Ray-Ban glasses and we have sort of the next version of that, but then we also have kind of the research going towards the full AR. And we haven't even gotten to neural interfaces yet, but we should definitely spend some time on that. But it's like you kind of go across all these different things, and it's just this incredibly wide amount of technology that needs to get built in order to basically build and deliver a realistic sense of presence like you're physically there with another person, which I just think is the most magical thing in the world.
Well, it's very exciting. The idea that you could have an office in a jungle. Like you could just all of a sudden we're going to call this meeting together and we're going to be on the moon.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to be next to a volcano.
Yeah.
There's going to be a bubbling volcano right next to the desk. It's cool. I mean, look, I love the fact that there's people like you out there doing it. That it's expanding the possibilities for this stuff. But so neural interfaces.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Like where's that going? And where are we at right now?
Yeah, so I think, so go back to your comments about the matrix before. I think when people think about neural interfaces, or any interface, I think it's important to separate out there's sort of, there's feedback that you're giving to the computer, and then there's information that the computer gives to you. And you can separate those two things out. So I actually think the super hard part here is going to be having a computer give you information straight into your brain, and that's not a thing that we're working on. So some people, I mean, like Elon with Neuralink and those companies, I think that's just taking this like super far off. I mean, maybe it'll be ready in like a couple decades. I mean, there will probably be interesting use cases in the near term for people who have injuries or something like that. But I think normal people, I think in the next 10 or 15 years are probably not going to want to get something just installed in their brain for fun, is my guess.
I don't want to be an early adopter.
Yeah, I think you want like the mature version of that, not like not the one that where it's going to get a lot better next year and you need to like get your brain implant upgraded every year. So, but here's the kind of version of this that I spent a lot of time thinking about. So, you have AR glasses, right? And how are you going to control that? Right, I mean, how you kind of control any computation device is obviously it's super fundamental to what the platform is. So you have a bunch of different modes. One of them is going to be voice, where you'll be able to talk to it, but that doesn't always work, right? If you're in a public place or you want to be discreet or you want to just not annoy the people around you, you're not going to dictate everything out loud. A second way is going to be, using your hands. So let's say, okay, so I snap my fingers, we have a chess game, right, or a poker game, and okay, here's our chessboard, and I move a piece. It's like, okay, yeah, that'll do with my hands. That's kind of cool, but like, you're not going to be walking down the sidewalk like manipulating stuff with your hands. I mean, that I think
Minority Report.
Yeah, I mean, I think at some basic level, if you can get past that just being weird, I think most people's hands will just get tired, right? I mean, if you ever, just if you hold your hands out like this for a long enough period of time, eventually you want to put your hands down. So the question is, how do you make it so that you can basically go and have your mind give commands to the computer, in this case the glasses, without having to speak out loud, without having to wave your hands around. Even though those things will be great for some use cases, you're not going to want them all the time. So the research that we're doing, it's based on it's basically it's input only, and it's focused on, so it's not trying to send signals to your brain. It's trying to make it so that your brain can communicate with the computer. And the path that we have is it's based on the fact that we have all these extra motor neurons in our body, right? And part of the reason for that is, like, in case you get hurt, you have neuroplasticity, you can rewire, do stuff, like find a different pathway to kind of send a signal to move your finger or something. There's all these different ways that it turns out our brain could tell this finger to move, but we've sort of optimized individually, kind of we kind of reinforce certain pathways and end up using one kind of motor neuron pathway to do a specific thing, and you have all these others that are not that used. So it turns out you can have a device on your wrist that basically your brain can communicate with your hand, tell your hand to move in like a pattern that it isn't used to, and then the wristband can sort of pick up those signals and translate them into completely different things, like having a virtual hand move in front of you while your physical hand is just kind of sitting there at your side. Whoa. So you'll be able to have this experience in the future where, like, you're sitting in a meeting, and you know your wife texts you, and it pops up in the corner of your glasses, and you want to respond, but you don't want to like pull out your phone because that's kind of rude, right? So you just kind of like, I don't know, twitch your wrist a little bit, maybe like this, like some super discreet motion that no one even knows you're doing it, and you just like send a message. And
that seems like a massive distraction. I mean, people are already distracted by their phones. Like when people get a text message and they're like, hang on a second, I just got to answer this real quick. And you're like, okay. And you're sitting there having lunch with someone and they're not talking to you and you're looking at their phone. But now they're going to be looking at these AR glasses and just thinking out
Didn't
text
even need
messages.
to go that way.
And you won't even know that they're distracted. They're just going to be not connecting with you.
I don't know. I actually think, I don't know, one experience that I think has been interesting since I've been doing more Zoom calls, especially earlier in COVID. One thing that I think actually was quite good, or is quite good, is the ability to both kind of have everyone who you're meeting with on video chat, but then also have a chat thread going with some of those people. So that way, like, let's say there's something that you don't want to say to everyone who's in the room, but you want to ask one person. It's like, hey, can you clarify this thing that you said? Or you like don't want to say something in front of someone. It's like, I have this issue a lot because there's like a lot of confidential information that I have around the company. I don't want to share it with everyone, but I want to like get certain people's opinion on stuff. And if I'm doing a meeting and it's purely physical and like everyone is there, I found that, you know, sometimes I like have to wait until the meeting is over to go get the answer to the question that I wanted.
Right.
Whereas when I was, if I'm kind of having a virtual meeting over Zoom or in VR and workrooms, you can just kind of text people while you're doing that.
Did
So
not mean to do that.
I actually think that it will unlock a massive amount of efficiency in communication and expression between people to make it so that people don't have to wait until they're done doing one thing to send a message to someone else. But yeah, I mean, I do think that there's a separate question about if you have glasses and you're kind of going about, you know, it's one thing to have VR and you put it on when you want to go, you know, play a game or do a meeting. In the kind of fullness of augmented reality, when you kind of have the glasses and you're like going about that through your life, having some kind of really smart do not disturb mode that has a sense of like, okay, this thing really shouldn't distract you when you're doing something important that's going to be a really important AI problem too. I think to be able to kind of simulate and understand, because I don't think it's going to be as black and white as like do not disturb on or off, right? I think you want some intelligence there about, you know, routing and kind of understanding which things you're going to want to get and which things not. And
maybe have certain people have priority, like if your wife or your family is trying to get a hold of you, they can get through, but business people can't get through.
Yeah.
I worry about additional distractions. I mean, I do not keep my children from social media because I feel like the world that they live in has social media in it, and I don't want them to be just completely disconnected from that. I limit the amount of time they use their phones, and I try to talk to them about the importance of not being like completely absorbed in social media and these kind of things that these kids do. But I think it's a part of life. and I think it's new and it's weird and it's confusing and it can be very addictive. But I also think it's a part of life. But going out to dinner with them is so hard. They just want to check their like, hey, put your phone down. Stop snapping with your friends. They're always Snapchatting. I'm like, stop doing that.
It's like, well, we got to stop that.
Yeah.
No.
It's like, you just got to put it aside. Just put it aside. But if you have glasses on, that's going to be very difficult. It's going to be very difficult to get people to, especially if glasses have social media applications and also offer some sort of a benefit, like a net benefit to like the way you view life. Like maybe give you information on the amount of calories that are if you pick up a food item. Like, what is that? Oh, look at all the calories. Oh my God, it's got that oil in it. That's not good for you. Or other benefits, but also has social media. You're going to come into this like sort of a weird place where you have to figure out whether or not this is a positive thing in your life, or whether or not it's overcoming you, and you're overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that it's going to end up being this balance, and hopefully our computers and platforms will help us find the reasonable balance on that. I mean, one of the things that you've said a few times is, okay, like, I'm not sure if I'd want to do this digitally. I think about, like, it's like I want to have this experience in the real world.
Yeah.
I mean, here's one kind of philosophical way that I think about this is, I actually think when you say the real world,
Hey,
I call that the physical world. And I think there's the physical world and the digital world, and I think the combination of those increasingly is the real world, right? It's like there's all this additional information that we bring to the physical experiences that we have, that whether it's digital or just from our own experience or studying that we've done.